Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us here at KAKM for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. On the satellite imagery, the goes west here, showing a front having moved through the southeast coast and rain changing to more showery conditions today with some partial clearing up here over the north, but the clouds and rain still hanging on to the southern areas through much of the day today. And again, showers and breaks back over the Gulf of Alaska, and then low pressure here aloft right over the Barren Islands there, circulation right through here, and some clearing came across Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula areas, but still some showers and isolated thunderstorms going on over the North Gulf of Alaska area. Then a lot of cloudy to mostly cloudy skies up all the way up to the Arctic coast there, where there was some snow going on across the North Slope and the eastern Arctic coast down into the Brooks Range, on into the Koyukuk Valley there at Bettles. And then some sunshine here back along the west coast areas where it was a little windier, northerly winds pretty gusty through this area, but it was basically dry, and again some sunshine all the way from Bristol Bay up across the Noatak and Selawik Valley areas there in Kotzebue Sound. Then more showers, northerly winds coming down, bringing showery conditions from St. Lawrence Island all the way down to the Pribilofs and then on into the Alaska Peninsula, and a few scattered showers over the eastern Aleutians. Otherwise, basically fair with some partial clearing out over the western and central Aleutian areas. And on the chart today, this front moving through the southeast coast, rainfall amounts again were pretty significant over the last 24 hours. Juneau, Metlakatla, and Petersburg all had over 1.5 inches of rain in the 24-hour period ending at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And Klawock and Sitka had over 1.75 inches in that same time period. And other areas had far greater amounts than that. But now with the front, or the main rain area having pushed to the east and to the south, it'll become showery, and amounts will be much lighter over the weekend. Had, again, scattered showers with some clearing here occurring along the North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound seeing some sun, also some sun in over the Copper River Basin, but a lot of shower activity, rain or snow, depending on your elevation here back along the Alaska Range, and then some scattered showers down over northeast Bristol Bay. And then the winds pretty gusty here from actually the Chukchi Sea right through the Bering Strait, 15 to 30 miles an hour along the eastern Bering Sea and the west coast areas, blowing right down across the Alaska Peninsula areas, and then some shower conditions here over the Pribilofs back up into the Bering Strait. Higher pressure and lighter winds out over the central and western Aleutians in those areas. And then on the forecast for tonight, actually the snow going on up here over the eastern North Slope and the Brooks Range on down into the Koyukuk Valley. That'll probably continue tonight, maybe another couple inches. 1 to 2 inches is about it for the accumulations up in that area, with this low center pulling eastward into the Gulf of Alaska. And there'll be showers, scattered showers here along the Panhandle tonight, up along the North Gulf Coast, but should be a dry evening and overnight period here for Prince William Sound and south central Alaska. Just some isolated showers over the mountains this evening. And then a little more widespread activity continues along the western Alaska Range. Rain and snow showers up over the central and eastern interior areas, but again from about the northern Koyukuk Valley areas up across the Brooks Range and the eastern North Slope, again some snow showers up in that area. dry over the western Arctic coast with light wind conditions. Winds continue here mostly from St. Lawrence Island down along the southwest coast to the Alaska Peninsula. Again, in that 15 to 25 mile per hour range. Could see some gusts 30 to 35 miles an hour this evening for the Alaska Peninsula, with some scattered showers riding in on those winds, drying out over the Pribilof Islands with lighter wind conditions, and nothing but high pressure out here over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutian chain. The next system up here to the north beginning to drop southeastward, and for tomorrow that'll bring rain in across St. Lawrence Island, with rain and fog down across Nunivak Island, just grazing the Yukon Delta coastline there, and then this will be sliding in toward the Pribilof Islands. Otherwise, again, scattered showers over the Alaska Peninsula, and still breezy with those northwest winds, but diminishing from what they were today, but staying windy back up across Kodiak Island. It will be partly to mostly sunny in that area, and some clearing here again over the western areas, but scattered rain and snow showers along the Alaska Range all the way around to the eastern range there, and then some scattered rain and snow showers in over the north central and east central interior. And look for the snow to continue there through the Brooks Range and the eastern North Slope areas. Scattered snow showers on the central and eastern Arctic coast. And then this low continuing to slowly move eastward. So that'll bring some showers, possibly heavy at times up along the north coast there, but scattered showers down across the Panhandle, with more activity out here to the west. This trough aloft will keep southwesterly flow in through the weekend there, gradually moving over. So looks like for the Sunday outlook, rain showers are likely here from the Dixon entrance area all the way up to Juneau, Elfin Cove, and then Yakutat, probably picking up some shower activity. Those become more widely scattered and isolated back toward Prince William Sound. Partly sunny both tomorrow and Sunday here for south central Alaska, even the Copper River Basin areas. But that system makes a pretty good jog to the southeast here from the northern Bering Sea tomorrow all the way down to Kodiak Island Sunday afternoon, with an area of rain coming across Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow night and early Sunday morning. Then they'll break out to some showers with those northwest winds back up to 25 to 30 knots here across the peninsula, and breezy conditions up along the Yukon and Kuskokwim Delta coastline. But lighter winds, mostly sunny there for the Seward Peninsula areas. Dry with partly to mostly sunny skies here over the western interior. High pressure up on the western Arctic coast, keeping winds light in that area. Still that northeast flow coming down, keeping scattered snow showers along the Arctic coast, and then some areas of light snow again along the Brooks Range and the eastern North Slope areas, but dry back out to the west. And again, high pressure holds here over the western Aleutians and the southern Bering Sea. That's the next system that'll be following the jet onto the southeast for late Sunday and into Monday. Otherwise, temperatures today down along the southeast coast, mid-50s, down over the southern areas there, 46 at Sitka with some shower activity, 51 both at Juneau and Skagway. Same temperature there at Yakutat, 47 in Cordova, about the same at Valdez, while Golkana pushed up to 49, 52, a little milder at Northway, but a cooler 43 at Delta, and 47 in Fairbanks. Tanana, 45 degrees, 34 snow and fog the entire day reported there at Bettles. 21 with snow and gusty northeast winds at Anatuvik, but a milder 36 over at Arctic Village. Up along the Arctic coast, temperatures in the upper 20s to lower 30s here on the central and eastern coastline, and mostly in the lower to mid 30s here to the west, with upper 30s to lower 40s over Kotzebue Sound. Shishmaref at 41. Nome and Golovin both had 43 today, as did Gamble, and 43 also at McGrath, with a 44-degree reading here at Bethel, with lower to mid 40s pretty common there over the southwest coast and interior. Pribilof's mid to upper 40s this afternoon, with a 54-degree reading at Atka, and lower 50s out to the west. For Unalaska, 46 degrees, 50 degrees at Nelson Lagoon, and False Pass had 48, 52 at Sand Point, 47 at King Salmon, Dillingham up to 52 degrees, and upper 40s there for Kodiak Island. Lows tonight in the 40s here across the southeast coast to upper 40s down over the southern areas. Otherwise, 20s up here over the Arctic coast and North Slope areas. and mid-20s down into the Kobuk and Selawik Valley areas, but lower 30s out along the Bering Strait there, with upper 20s to lower 30s over the southwest interior, and lows mostly in the 30s here for south central Alaska, but the Copper River Basin dropping down into the 20s, and 30s to mid 40s here for the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians, with the Pribilofs dropping into the upper 30s. Highs for tomorrow staying at or below freezing here over the Brooks Range, North Slope, and much of the Arctic coast, with mid-30s here over the northwest interior. Upper 30s to lower 40s there across the Tanana and upper Yukon Valley areas. Lower 40s back across the Kuskokwim Valley all the way out to the coastline there. Upper 40s for Bristol Bay, and 40s to lower 50s here for south central Alaska, mostly in the lower 50s there across the southeast coast. Flying weather, look for marginal VFR here across all of the Panhandle tomorrow, with IFR up over the northern areas, marginal VFR over the Wrangell Mountains, and all around the Alaska Range with some marginal VFR over the Talkeetnas. Look for IFR along and on the north side of the central and western Alaska Range. Big area of marginal VFR here over the central and eastern North Slope, with an area of IFR actually there along the North Slope to the Brooks Range areas, but looking better flying conditions here over the western Arctic coast. Should be VFR here all the way down into Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island VFR, Kenai Peninsula and Cook Inlet VFR, and then marginal VFR, that area of moisture sliding southeastward there, bringing some marginal conditions in along the southwest coast there to Nunivak Island, back across the Pribilofs on down into the western Aleutians. But the forecast is for VFR here for the central, eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Looking at the passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR, likely seeing IFR in the northern entrance. That same forecast good for Adigan as well. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR at times throughout the day tomorrow. And then for Rainy, IFR in the western entrance. Otherwise, conditions looking pretty marginal through the pass, with windy, lowest conditions on the northern entrance there, possibly VFR to the south and marginal through the pass. That same forecast for Isabel. Northern approach is IFR and marginal to the south, and Mentasta just marginal VFR. For Tanita, optimistically a VFR day in store for that pass, and then Portage starting out marginal, becoming VFR, and Chilkoot and White look IFR through much of the day. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet over the northern southeast coast to about 4,000 to 5,000 feet down toward Dixon Entrance. Otherwise, we've got 2,000 feet here along the North Gulf Coast, Bristol Bay, and then angling back up toward St. Lawrence Island at the surface here, roughly across the Seward Peninsula and through the Tanana Valley areas, and then about 4,000 to 8,000 feet here over the west central Aleutian areas as this colder air slides off to the southeast. And from there, icing with the moisture coming with that next system coming out of Russia there, sliding in across the St. Lawrence Island area to Nunivak Island, just skiffing the southwest coast there, and then slipping into the Pribilof Islands above about 3,000 feet, light to isolated moderate rime icing. And that same type here over the southeast coast, although more of a mixed condition here in the more unstable air mass across the Panhandle back up toward the Wrangell Mountain areas. And looking at the winds aloft, the system over the Barren Islands now moves to about this position tomorrow, and then that will move in over the northern Panhandle on Sunday, while this one up here makes a faster stride to the southeast. Again, by Sunday, this will be all the way down to Kodiak Island with a good northwest jet maintaining itself out over the central and southern Bering Sea areas. 9,000 foot winds show low pressure there south or southwest of Yakutat, but pretty light winds over the southeast interior right up into the central interior. 25 knots over the western Brooks Range. West-northwest winds here out over the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, all about 25 to 30 knots, lighter over the western and central Aleutians. Southwest winds 20 to 25 knots in across the Panhandle. 3,000 foot winds, much the same in direction, and maybe 15 to 20 knots here across the southeast coast, but staying light over the southeast interior up into the Tanana Valley. Then picking up a little speed, east-northeasterlies 15 to 20 knots, the Brooks Range and North Slope areas, and then light and variable here across the Seward Peninsula and Norton Sound, with those northwest winds 25 to 30 knots, a stronger wind max here. That'll be dropping southward, and again, with this low tracking to the southeast, that'll bring those stronger winds in across the southwest Bering and Alaska Peninsula on Sunday. And looking at turbulence for tomorrow, an area of light to isolated moderate chop over the central and western Brooks Range, otherwise pretty smooth through much of the interior. Occasional moderate chop here for the Alaska Peninsula and mostly south of the Aleutian Range, and then also from the Pribilof Islands back up to the northwest. And again, this area will be slipping on down to the Alaska Peninsula on Sunday. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the ice edge and the marine forecasts.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this evening is Dr. Marcel Dion. Marcel is the regional flight surgeon, the FAA regional flight surgeon. He's a man with a lot of experience, and we're very fortunate to have him in the region. He's a former Air Force officer, a flight surgeon, and he's flown such equipment as the KC-135, the F-15E and D, and C-130s, C-12s, you name it. He also had a tour at the Air Force Academy, but once he came up to Alaska and was flying with the squadrons here, he knew this is where he wanted to be. So he had to go outside for a couple of years, but he came back here to retire. Marcel, welcome to Hangar Flying.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So you've been in your current job 7 months, did I get that right?
Joined the FAA in January, so going on 8 months.
So what are your first impressions?
It's a great job. For me, it's the perfect job. Marriage of aerospace medicine, flying, and working with the aviation community.
And working, I might add, with some really great folks. I got a lot of good friends in the FAA, and they do a great job year in and year out.
Absolutely.
So since not quite a year, but what are your initial observations? Are there any areas that you would like to concentrate on?
Well, there's a couple goals that I have, and I'll mention a concern. One is, one of the things I want to focus on is reaching out to the aviation community, providing some education, especially the aeromedical or the aerospace medicine piece to that, and also at the same time help promote aviation safety. One of the concerns coming up to Alaska is the general aviation accidents that we hear about. I've not seen any published data on what trends are, if there's any human factor type trends. So that's one of the areas I'm concerned about and want to investigate a little bit.
Talk a little bit. I didn't go into detail, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about some of your medical training, which I think it sounded to me suited you ideally for the task ahead.
Originally from a general practice family medicine background and from private practice with an interest in aviation, I joined the Air Force to do flight medicine. Once in the Air Force, decided it was a great field to further develop, so I applied and completed a residency in aerospace medicine while in the Air Force.
When we were talking, I thought it was pretty cool. You really were what I would call a country doc in Maine at one point, weren't you? You did everything from babies to old people.
I did cradle to grave, and yes, I had gone back from my residency in family medicine to a rural area of Maine, actually the area I grew up in, to do general practice, and I was working out of 2 different offices that shared a hospital, 2 different towns, and took care of geriatrics, adult medicine, peds, and delivered babies.
Well, I got to tell you a story. I don't usually do this, but my son is a pediatrician. So at one point in time, I said, "Hey, son, what do you think about this condition?" He said, "Dad, you need to see a geriatric specialist." This is the boy I raised, Anyway, it's really good to have you up here, and your mom and dad were pilots, weren't they?
They were. They flew in air coupe, and you know, lifelong interest in flying. Decided coming out of high school that I'd go to college and looking either at aviation or medicine. Medicine turned out to be the field I went in, but I was able to join both fields once I was in private practice and took flying lessons. And the rest is history. Joined the Air Force.
Well, you know, it's this is the perfect state because Alaska is a flying state. And having you up here with your zeal and your interest and your background, the flying community really can benefit from that. So welcome, and I'd like to get you back on the program, talk about a couple things. Maybe next time we can talk about some of the areas that concern you the most, that medical related aviation problems or challenges, and also, and so if we could maybe concentrate on that next time, get you back.
Be happy to.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. Dr. Dion is a really great guy to have on the FAA staff up here, and the short time I've gotten to know him, he's a true professional, and I think we're going to really value his friendship for the next couple of years. And finally, I'd like to have you to keep in mind that the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation is member funded, and your membership is what keeps this program alive. It also helps to sponsor 2 safety seminars a year, our scholarships, our newsletters. So it won't be long, we'll start going out and looking for 2015 memberships, but we appreciate your support. Until next time, fly safe.
Welcome back. Well, today's sea ice analysis shows things kind of split in two here by this big area of open water extending up to the north and northwest. And over the next 5 days, the main ice edge through here and then back here to the east is expected to move southward 10 to 20 nautical miles again through Wednesday. And also with the light winds and colder temperatures, new ice will continue to form in around the original ice through here, both this area and back up to the northwest there, seeing new ice, and also along this sliver of ice there by the barrier island, seeing some new ice form around that as well. So looks like it turned the corner here, and now the melting is about done, and seeing an expansion of the sea ice coming up for at least the next 4 or 5 days. On to the coastal marine forecasts. Southwesterlies 15 to 25 knots here out along the outer coastline, more southerly in the direction for the north coast. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, southerlies, or actually northern Lynn Canal, southerlies at 25 knots. Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait looking south at about 15 with 3-foot seas. And for Sunday, westerlies 15 to 20 knots for the central and south coast, and south 15 for the north coast. Lighter winds for northern Lynn Canal, and not much change here over the central and southern inside waters. And for Prince William Sound, light variable winds in the forecast for tomorrow. Northerlies 15 or north-northwest 10 to 15 knots for the North Gulf Coast. Got small craft advisories here. Kodiak Island, the Barren Islands, and Kamishak Bay for west-northwest winds going 20 to 25 knots with seas running 6 to 8 feet. Cook Inlet, northwesterlies, predominantly northwest, 10 to 15 knots with 2 to 3 foot seas. And the outlook for Sunday, northeast 10 for Prince William Sound, and northern Cook Inlet, light north winds, and northwest 15 for the southern inlet. We've got small craft advisories here for the Kamishak Bay area. Down across the Barrens, northwesterlies 25 knots, and northwest increasing to 30 knots there along the east side of Kodiak Island. Otherwise, light variable winds for the North Gulf Coast. And for Bristol Bay tomorrow, northwest 25, northwesterlies at 25 here for the Alaska Peninsula with 7 to 9 foot seas. A little bit stronger there from about Chignik up to Sand Point, southwest of Kodiak, northwest at 30. Then those winds tend to increase again on Sunday, not so much in Bristol Bay, northwest 20 in the forecast there, but northwest pretty brisk, 30-knot winds there across the Alaska Peninsula right up towards Sitkinak. And for the Aleutians, western Aleutians, westerlies at 20 knots tomorrow, 10 to 15 knot westerlies here through the central Aleutians. And then west to northwest, 20 to 25 knots for the eastern marine zones there, with seas running 6 to 8 feet and about 5 feet out here to the west. And then for Sunday, southwest 15 for the western Aleutians, and westerlies or west-northwest, but on the light side, just 10 to 15 knots through the central Aleutians. And Fox Island, small craft advisories continue there for northwesterlies at 25 knots. And for the southwest coast, north of Nunivak Island, westerlies at 25, south of the island, northwest at 25, and for the Pribilofs, westerlies at 25 knots, and that wind pattern right up across the northern Bering Sea to St. Matthew Island, northwest 25 for St. Lawrence Island. And small craft advisories continue here for the southwest coast on Sunday, and then drop back to about 20 knots for St. Lawrence Island, and then a little bit stronger winds in store for the Pribilofs, northwest at 30 with 9-foot seas. Up along the Arctic coast for the east side there, northeast at 15. Pretty light winds for the central coast and mostly easterlies, 15 to 20 knots for the western coast. And then Wales to Cape Thompson look light northerly, light northerly. And for Sunday, those pick up to about 20 knots in that area. Otherwise, the western Arctic coast, easterlies at 15. Winds stay light for the central coast, and east-northeasterlies at 15 there for the eastern stretch of the coastline. And for tonight, look showery here over the southeast coast, up along the North Gulf Coast, which should be basically dry. Just some isolated showers over the mountains over south central Alaska and the Copper River Basin, but scattered rain and snow showers up over the central interior, right down the Alaska Range area toward Iliamna. It stays pretty brisk here with those northwest winds, but snow, maybe 1 to 2 inches for the eastern North Slope and Brooks Range area, and that pattern holds through tomorrow as well, with scattered rain and snow showers in over the north central interior. Low pressure inching its way eastward. It's going to keep the panhandle showery both tomorrow, and then it looks like showers likely as the main trough finally starts to move inland. But rainfall amounts will be much lighter than they have been recently, and then this system drops southeastward and brings some rain changing to showers to Kodiak.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.